Oftentimes, the most audacious scandal
Johnson & Johnson's baby powder and other talc products cause cancer.
Involves the most routine paperwork. In August 2024, Johnson & Johnson created a subsidiary in Texas. They called it Red River Talc. The managers, all based at J&J headquarters in New Jersey. In Texas, no employees, no products, no real business at all, just paperwork. Red River is registered here. We found the phone number, but when we called,
you're speaking to CT Corporation, so we're not Johnson & Johnson, we're CT Corporation, and that's really all I'm going to say.
A month later, it all made sense.
A Johnson & Johnson subsidiary filing for bankruptcy protection for the third time.
Bankruptcy. Johnson & Johnson is one of the most profitable companies in America. It's worth more than $350 billion. Why would one of the most profitable companies in the world create a subsidiary only to declare it bankrupt? Not once, but 3 times since 2021. So I started to dig into it. The allegations, the documents hidden from the public, and the legal maneuvering. Something bigger emerged. Legal experts believe it's the endgame of a decades-long strategy that could help J&J escape responsibility for thousands of cancer cases, while thousands of women are left fighting battles on 2 fronts, against a disease and against a justice system that is failing them. The question is, will J&J's strategy work?
If a company can get by with these types of tactics, then the American people are in serious danger.
Most likely, my mother used the powder. That was the big thing back then in the 40s and 50s.
What's that stuff? Johnson's baby powder.
I have 2 girls, and I also used it on them. And then in turn, they used it on their sons, their children, too.
Women like Marianne trusted Johnson & Johnson's baby powder for generations. It wasn't just a product, it was a ritual passed down from mother to child. The marketing worked so well that by the late 1960s, an internal memo crowned baby powder the cornerstone of Johnson & Johnson's entire baby business. The product itself was simple, talc, a mineral mined from the earth. But in 1966, academics published a troubling discovery. Talc had no medicinal value. Worse, it was linked to 3 deaths. The warning made its way through Johnson & Johnson's executive offices.
There was a concern starting in the 1970s about asbestos being in talc because of testing done by the FDA.
That's Jessica Dean. She's a plaintiff's attorney. For over a decade, she's been fighting Johnson & Johnson in court over the deadly discovery of asbestos in talc, the mineral used in baby powder.
The problem is that talc and asbestos often grow together. It has been known for decades to be a common impurity in talc.
Asbestos causes mesothelioma, a cancer that destroys organ linings from within. It's also linked to ovarian cancer. No amount of processing can make it safe.
You're mixing a carcinogen into a powder product designed to be used on children and designed to be used in our homes. And that's the problem at the core of what Johnson & Johnson did.
The government had concerns pretty early. In 1972, they called a meeting to review an FDA study that found asbestos in a huge chunk of products on store shelves. 5 members of J&J went, along with some other industry groups. And this is where the paper trail picks up. According to the meeting summary, an industry lobbyist pushed to keep the FDA study secret, saying it could cause great economic hardship for the companies. J&J said that the government's positive asbestos tests were faulty, and that their own tests came back negative. That's more or less the company's position on testing to this day.
They will boast, look at how many tests we've done that don't show asbestos. And they use tests that were underpowered. A simple example I can think of is if you are trying to weigh a feather, you don't use a bathroom scale. It's not going to show up. You need to have something that is more sensitive.
Coming out of that meeting, the government agreed to let companies self-test, and Johnson & Johnson promised to share their own records, swearing they found nothing concerning.
When they made that promise, they had already done testing revealing asbestos in the actual samples from Dr. Lewin at the FDA. In fact, 1/3 of the fibers in baby powder were tremolite asbestos. There were over 400 samples evidencing asbestos in talc that J&J knew about after they promised our government will give you everything, and we now know they didn't give them any of it.
Jessica isn't the only one alleging this. At this point, it's more or less common knowledge. Real people paid the price.
Never thought that I would have cancer. It was a shock. First time, the tumor was the size of a cantaloupe.
Marianne beat ovarian cancer in 2008, only to see it return 4 years later.
And one of the hardest things was sore. couldn't see my grandchildren because they were both in school, and I couldn't be around people that might have germs. I didn't see friends.